Hi everyone, good day. Today I'm going to talk about global strategy and organizational structure, mostly based on Ruth and Dow's chapter 9. I already posted a PowerPoint. Anyway, I want to make life a little bit easy for you to remember, I find acronyms really easy for me to remember. All right, so I'm going to talk about L.E.A.D strategy, really talk about licensing, franchising, that's the L. E is export, import. The A is like alliance, to me is joint venture. And D is direct foreign investment, okay? So we have spent the last 12 weeks talking about global business environment, the macro environment, the culture, okay? And now we going to go to exactly global strategy or tactics. Last chapter we talked about different approaches, for global strategy. Basically, is balancing the global integration versus local responsiveness. We talk about global strategy, transnational strategy, multi-domestic strategy, and then we talk about international strategy. But today I'm going to go to more specifics. Okay. So basically, if you read the textbook, they kind of like summarize in 4 main areas too. Export import. The second one is wholly owned subsidiaries, merger acquisition, and that's really direct foreign investment, I call that. And the third one, alliance, joint venture, I'm going to give you examples too. And then they have license and franchising. So I group them under 4. Okay. So this is my approach anyway. Again, the areas for licensing, franchising, yes, there's some differences, okay? I'm going to explain that. And the second one is export and import. That's what I did my business for many years, 10 years, and I did a lot of exporting and importing. Alliance, I'm emphasize joint venture. I'm going to give you examples, like GM in China, Tesla. Tesla is not real, Tesla's foreign direct investment. Yeah, Ford have a joint venture with the Chinese too. So anyway, I'm going to talk about direct foreign investment. There's 2 ways to approach that. You can start something really from scratch. We call it greenfield investment, like Tesla was doing they started with $500 billion, bought another $500 billion from the Chinese banks. Anyway, it's a huge investment in Shanghai. And the next one is with cross-border M&A, merging and acquisition. So basically, you can just go to a foreign country, buy a factory or a plant, and then you own it. So anyway, so basically, that's the L.E.A.D strategy. And specifically, I probably call this really exactly tactics to approach your global initiative. Okay. So again, many literature talks about it. A lot of theory. It's not easy to have a global strategy. I said many times, it's very hard to make money, even domestically, and it's much harder to make money globally. So there's a lot of barriers, a lot of cultural differences, before you go to overseas, you have to really think about it. But a good strategist probably have a few plans, plan to be successful and another plan to exit, to retreat, Happened to Google. Google went to China earlier and then they got kicked out in a way, and they get back, and then the re-entry again, of course, in a different field anyway. So strategy is very complicated, but it's the most important international management as well. So again, a lot of theories, okay, you have to pay attention to many things, to the macro environment, to the industry, to the technology. The most important is really the firm, the company itself. Are you competitive enough globally? Okay. If you're struggling domestically, you don't have any really strategic or competitive assets, and I would say advise you not to go overseas anyway. Okay, so let's go to the first one, licensing. Licensing is really a common way. So basically, if you have a very good brand in US, okay, like say one example, like Warner owns Looney Tunes, right? And you're in the entertainment industry, but Looney Tunes are liked by many people and kids, and then you say, okay, actually my friend John in Hong Kong actually used to be the licensee for Looney Tunes in Greater China, that including Hong Kong, China, and Macau. Yeah, so anyway, but again, Warner, so basically Warner Brothers, they said, okay, we want to focus on the entertainment industry, but we are willing to license the Looney Tunes brands to different licenses in different countries. And that's why my friend John actually did that anyway. So basically, this is an agreement that allows one party to use the industrial property rights in exchange for payment to the other party. In this case, it's the brand name, right? The trademark of Looney Tunes, okay? So my friend John got the licensing and he pays like 3 to 5%, of his sales revenue to Warner Brothers, okay? And Warner Brothers is happy because what? They don't have too much risk because they just, make sure, they got paid. They can do that in many other territories because, you can make movies or other stuff, but it's running another business, apparel or whatever, is very hard. So anyway, but then the licensee may avoid entry costs by licensing to a firm already there. As I said, licensor, that's Warner Bros. In this case, they don't know much about China. My friend John knows a lot about China, so anyway, that's why he could do that anyway. But also companies have to really have some special advantages. Warner Brothers, of course, is a big entertainment company, because if you don't have anything valuable or with good R&D or technology, nobody would want to license anything from you, right? They can have their own brand. But the key thing is really must be brand equity there, okay? Looney Tunes come from the US, and American culture is liked by many people overseas, okay? So that's licensing, okay? What is franchising? Franchising is a little bit more formal. The definition goes, so basically, as a franchisor permits another franchisee to operate enterprise using its trademark logo, product line, and a method of operations in return for a fee. You can see, right, it's much more stringent, okay? I think many of you like Dutch Brothers, right? And we have seen Dutch Brothers, coffee shops in Pacific Northwest to in Newburgh, right? So basically, you're not just using the brand name, but you have to pay them a huge fee, a huge sunk cost. And then you have to use the coffee, their machine, the way of making coffee, okay? So it's much more stringent. Or if you are a franchisee for McDonald's, even in Hong Kong or China, you must get all this training by McDonald's from, the McDonald's or Hamburger University, right? So anyway, so again, it's much more complex, it's more contractual, but also costs you much more money, okay? I have some friends in China. I heard that McDonald's license could go up to like $500,000 US to $1 million US. Really depends what cities you're in right now. So anyway, so again, the franchisor gets a new stream of income, and franchisee gets a proven concept product service that can quickly be brought to the market, right? Because McDonald's is really very popular. Another thing like Kentucky Fried Chicken is #1 in China right now. That's what they did initially too, right? So anyway, so franchising is much more stringent, more complicated, but probably more profitable too if you run a business well, okay? Okay, so that's the L, right? The next one is export-import. This is one of the ways you can go overseas, do global business. That's what I did, Before I started my business in 2001, become the Mr. DVD, I was in another company as a VP for sales, marketing, and distribution. So I know a lot about the global computer hardware market. So that's what I did when I first started. I said, hey, in Hong Kong is a great place to, for free trade, because really free port is no duty, and so basically I can import DVDs from anywhere, from China, from South Korea, Japan, US, and Taiwan, and I can sell to many countries. We sell DVDs to more than like 20 some different countries anyway. So basically exporting, importing is just the most easy way to start a business. But also, the big firms actually, when they have a good product, they do not really want to invest or open a branch in other places. We sell a lot of Pioneer DVD or Samsung DVDs or other drives anyway. So those big companies need box movers like us to do the free allocation, free shipping of those goods for them. We make about 6 to 10%, but the thing is we can really turn the cash really fast. Sometimes we can do like 3 times a month, so that's really adds up is really good anyway. Again, exporting, importing is really transitional in nature. Yes, I was the Mr. DVD. We're the largest one in Hong Kong, but I don't own it. I don't own a DVD brand. I don't own Sony. I don't own Pioneer. I don't own Samsung. I don't own L.E.A.D or L.E.A.D. I'm the box mover. We're the distributor for them. So you see that, right? Anyway, so under this strategy is like, okay, I just need to know the supply chain, the market. I don't need to have too much capital. The reason because I already built a trust among my customers, and I met many CEOs and buyers from overseas, Africa, Europe, and Middle East. So when I start my own company, they can trust me and they can put $100,000 in my account, and they know I'm not gonna cheat them. I can send out the goods. So anyway, so for me, I have minimal risk because what? I need a warehouse, I need to hire a few people. So again, that's the easiest way people start business, okay? The third one is getting more complicated. So basically, alliance, or joint venture. So basically, you have a cooperation between a few companies. I mentioned, GM goes to China, they have a Chinese partner. Used to be by Chinese law. The Chinese company, state-owned company, must have 51%, and GM only got 49%. And it's so true, GM sells more cars in China than in US. However, they have to share the profit with the Chinese partners anyway. But again, the advantage is like, okay, you don't need to worry too much about the Chinese market. The Chinese partner that knows the local market, that knows the Chinese policy, they can soothe or smooth a lot of things. It's much harder for you to just go there by yourself anyway. So normally, come with the different forms, international joint venture. For GM's case, it's equity joint venture, and the Chinese company owns 51. But right now, actually, the US has been pushing, or EU, the Chinese government right now allow foreign partners have majority share rather than just a minor one. Okay, so the advantages is really, it's the efficiency there. Again, foreign companies can utilize their local partners' knowledge, connections. So that's very important. But again, also you can mitigate political factors, let the partner to do this job, okay? But also, you can overcome collusion or restriction competition. And it's interesting, actually, Chinese government allows GM to have 2 partners in China, or foreign companies. So in a sense, you don't have a monopoly, there's some competition over there. So this is the third approach to go overseas. So I call it A, right? Okay. But again, you can go too much more details on those, through different methods. You can read from the textbook, okay? But I want to talk about the last one, the D. Of course, I call this direct foreign investment. A lot of people foreign direct investment in nature is the same. I call it direct foreign investments, fit my acronym like L.E.A.D, right? So anyway, as I mentioned earlier, there's 2 ways you could go global, right? In direct foreign investment. The first one is really, you can wholly own your factory, your offices, okay? You can build from scratch, okay? Like Tesla did. Tesla did, in Shanghai, one of the largest, they call gigafactory, like the one you have in Arizona. So anyway, So basically, they want to own it. They want to own the technology. They want to own the management. They don't want any outsiders to influence them. Of course, they still have to abide by the Chinese law. So anyway, so basically, they wholly own that. Okay. But again, in other ways, they could do really. In other ways, you could just buy, okay, another company. So merger and acquisition happens all the time, domestically too. Each year is about trillions of dollars worldwide. I want to use one example. So basically, I think a lot of Americans, you have a Volvo. You know what a Volvo car is, right? So Volvo was from Sweden. Used to be really, bragged about their reliability, but Volvo was not doing well. They just cannot sell that many cars, and Ford bought it, like for about $6 billion in the 2000s, and then Ford was struggling and it could not really make it profitable, and eventually Ford had to sell Volvo to this Chinese company called L.E.A.D. Okay. So, and the Chinese company L.E.A.D actually started with like building tractors in China, motorcycles, and their chairman and founder, Mr. Li, and he was saying like, okay, I want to go global. And he heard Ford wants to sell the Volvo brand. And then he tried to contact them. Initially, Ford just ignored the guy. And I said, who is this guy? I have no clue, about this Chinese company. But eventually, they began to negotiate, and L.E.A.D bought Volvo for close about $2 billion about 2010, and actually Volvo has never been better right now under the Chinese. The reason because Chile wants to buy Volvo, they want not just international market, they keep all those global R&D offices, and they still keep the Sweden office, but they really wants to buy the technology from Ford, Americans, before the Americans bought from the Swedes, right? Swedish. So anyway, so basically, Chile bought, Volvo is for technology, okay? They want to use that technology, a lot of patents, and they want to sell not just worldwide, also in China. Also could be the way of, managing an auto company. Remember, Chile was not making nice cars. They were making cheap ones before, so anyway. So there's a lot of reasons why, you want to buy. Also because it's very hard to grow internally. Organic growth is really slow, even say 10 or 20%. So if you have the money, and if you have the talents, you have the vision, it's much easier to buy a company. So that's why merger and acquisitions plays a huge, huge part. Anyway, so the L.E.A.D strategy is very common. Luthens and Doe explain in details, but I just want to help you to remember this in an easy way. Normally, scholars says, okay, I believe this too. Licensing have the lowest risk, okay, and then export-import risk is a bit higher, and then joint venture is higher risk, but then direct foreign investment have the highest risk. And we know in the business world, right? Higher risks mean higher returns. So anyway. There's some debate talk about, okay, maybe export, is less risky than licensing. Really really depends, I think my friend John has less risk than me when he licenses Looney Tunes, and I have to sometimes stock with a lot of stocks anyway. Again, but just remember the acronym, the L.E.A.D strategy, help to remember, and the more details are from the textbook, okay? And the next part I want to really talk about the structure. So if you learn strategic management, there's a lot of discussion between strategy versus structure, and what is first, is chicken or egg, it's kind of like scholars love to debate. But to me, I can say this, I was an entrepreneur, started my own company, and I would say, if it's for a brand new company, of course, strategy first, right? Because I have to have this business plan, and then I began to build a structure. I began to hire people, rent an office, and then one time we have office we have office in China, in US as well, right? So anyway, so that sense, probably strategy first, structure later. But if your company has been a lot of times, it's really, you could have either way, because you could be like structure first and determine the strategy. So really, but one thing you need to remember, okay, the structure is very important. They could either facilitate or inhibit strategic implementation. If you have a great strategy, but your implementation is not good, that means you got a problem with structure. Some companies have huge, very tall layer of structure, nothing gets done, and the competitors are very agile, very nimble. See, that means your structure become a problem, okay? So you see, in business world we call CUVA, right? Complex, uncertain, volatile, and ambiguous right now, especially, during this COVID-19 crisis, you read it, you heard, and many people got laid off, many companies going bankrupt, and the bosses have to really think about what is the right structure for the company to survive. But the movement right now is a lot of, not talk about like thrive, it's talk about survive, survive of the fittest right now. So anyway, so changing strategy ultimately leads to changing organizational structure, okay? If your strategy is to survive right now, then you need to change the structure. Lay some people off, and focus on the areas you could have higher returns. So anyway, just very important anyway. So don't underestimate the structure, okay? Of course, we have a global structure here, right? Okay. So normally, global structure for multinational enterprises, sometimes a very, kind of hierarchical. You normally have a CEO on board, and then you have senior vice presidents, and you have VPs, general managers, could be, and then under each division, and you have VPs for this, VPs for that. Anyway, that's a typical hierarchical structure there, okay? So anyway, but again, the initial division structure, sometimes based on the export arrangement, is very common among manufacturing firms, because like I said, initially Caterpillar, they manufacture heavy equipment here, they need to sell overseas, initially locally, and they have to build subsidiaries overseas, because they don't really want to open a factory first anyway. So initially, you start locally and going overseas. I think the same case for A.D.A.C from Newberg, initially they have it here, and they become bigger, and they acquired a company in Washington State. They become #1 in US in a sense, 20–30% market share, and then they began to sell UK, they began to sell Canada, and then they opened an office in UK, and then they opened a factory in Hangzhou, China. I visited the A.D.A.C factory in China about 3 years ago. So anyway, so you see that company kind of go through this incremental process. Okay, but again, they use subsidiaries. Okay, for A.D.A.C's case, the A.D.A.C CEO is here. A.D.A.C China has the general manager. I used to know the former general manager. He left anyway. So basically, the general manager from A.D.A.C China reports to the VP in Newberg. Bloomberg anyway. But also they have people in finance, but also sometimes have people in different countries. I just mentioned L.E.A.D, still have operations in UK and China, and even they sell to South America too. Okay. So then you got an international division structure and arrangement handles international operations. Okay. If you look at Apple, this chart, they have Apple China, because Apple is very big in China, I think Hong Kong is under China, then you got Apple Japan, then you got Apple Asia, Apple Europe, Apple North America, Africa. I think Africa is under Middle East together. Anyway, so you see that anyway. So based on the international structure, but always remember, no matter what kind of structure you have, there's always pros and cons. There's no perfect structure, okay? So the advantages for international division structure could be, you can focus on you can get the top management attention because, direct report to the boss, okay? You could have a unified approach for international operations. This is how we do things in Asia. We should follow this procedure. This should be the same probably in South America, okay? But what are the disadvantages? You kind of separate domestic from international managers because, one is foreign, international, and they don't really exchange information that hard, and sometimes they could fight for resources. Okay, yeah. I also remember companies have limited resources. Okay, so this is the organizational chart and based on division structure, and different territory, different continent. Okay, but I want to talk about 3 more typical structures from the textbook. The first one is really called global product division. You understand, right? Really based on product. And for Apple, Apple have many products. They have iPad. I'm using iPad Pro to video this right now, very good quality. And they have iPhone. They have, iPod, the music. So many things anyway, and they into software too. Okay, but also they can focus on global area division, means like territory. And the third one is global functional divisions. Could be manufacturing, could be research and development, could be logistics, anyway. So I'm going to go over 3 of these, okay, I'll go over 3 of these structures, all right? Okay, so global product division is very easy to understand based on products, right? But again, this structure has advantages and disadvantages. Okay, so advantages really because each division operates its own profit center. Self-responsible, okay? But they could also help manage product technology and customer diversity. Again, because the Asian customers maybe have different needs than South American customers, right? And they can really, that's one of the most important ones, they can really address the local needs faster, okay? Sometimes, Apple, if they found they have a lot of stock inventory and they say, hey, the Chinese really like this model and maybe we can just drop the price, and because it's, when you send goods to China, they have value-added taxes, so the Chinese phone is more expensive, the iPhone in China than here. So, so basically, if you drop the price there in China, and then the demand will go up. So the Chinese consumers like iPhone, is the symbol of prestige. People will buy it anyway. So you can be really flexible, and that's what Apple did, because you don't have to do that in the other places like the US or other Europe. Okay, but also marketing and others can be really supportive. The disadvantage is like, remember, you have to have those offices supporting stuff in different, for different product anyway. So there's a lot of duplication of resources. That means the operational cost is higher. And we know if sales revenue is the same, operation cost is higher, that means what? You make less money, less profit, okay? So this is the chart here, okay, based on product anyway, okay. The next one is global area division. Again, it's based on geographical. I use this all the time already. Actually, typical computer companies do that because I was in the computer industry for like 16 years. You go to HP's website. HP have HP Asia. HP North America, HP South America. You got HP. They call MEMA, Middle East, Europe, so anyway, it's like MEMA, yeah, Middle East and Europe anyway. So it's kind of put Europe and Africa, and Africa, okay, yeah. Middle East, Europe and Africa together anyway. So again, you get advantages, basically international operations, they're on the same level as domestic operations. It means like, okay, because they're running HP overseas just like domestic. They have a lot of power, they can do their own marketing, customer services, yeah. But again, the disadvantages is like, okay, some markets have different tastes. I just mentioned the iPhone, right? US, we are more technology savvy and consumers like the latest one. But for other products, some consumers in Asia probably like, the iPhone 8, because it's cheaper, right? So anyway, but sometimes new R&D efforts often ignored because, divisions selling in the mature market. That's okay, we sell a lot of money here, let's kind of slow down that anyway. So that's probably sometimes you get some problems with the global area structure, okay? Again, that's another example, another chart for basically this one's based on geographic, locations, okay? The very last one is based on function, okay? Companies have different functions, could be, product, marketing, and you go to oil company, they need, crude oil, right? They have drilling, and then after you get the crude oil, they send it to refinery, right? And then for the lower stream, after the oil is refined, right? Then you got gas stations. And it was a lot of things, okay, under different functions, okay? And even for Apple, right? I like to use that example because it's easy for us to understand. You got product, but again, Apple, you got the R&D, that's where they're really strong, right? And they're really strong with marketing too, right? So anyway, a lot of software engineer and hardware engineer and new products coming out anyway, all right? So the advantages for this is really, the firms like that because they have they have better coordination, and they kind of integrate the products better because this is based on function, only emphasize the product worldwide rather than like, okay, you're Europe, this is America, and you fight for the resources, okay? But the disadvantage is really sometimes it's very hard to coordinate manufacturing and marketing. And actually, McDonald's learned how to do this, and they emphasize a lot of local responsiveness. So anyway, they basically give them the money, percentage of the local sales revenue. They can do whatever they want. They can do the promotion in India by local franchises in China, the same. So anyway, so there's some disadvantage on that, okay? Again, it's no perfect structure, okay? So that's another table here. You can get more details from the textbook anyway. But a lot of times, companies always have like hybrid structure. We call it mixed organization structure. They try to get advantage of this and that, okay? So again, the advantages under this mixed organization structure is really organizations can create a specific type of design, meet their needs. But the disadvantages really, remember, coordination is really hard. Also the cost, okay? And sometimes everybody, fight for their own interest, the office politics happens too anyway. So there's no perfect design, no perfect structure in business, okay? So that's the chart here, okay? Some new structures coming out too, transnational network structures. So basically multinational structure arrangement, try to combine all those functions, try to link worldwide subsidiaries, okay? Because right now with the technology, zooming, videographing, all those just like, the company platform is much easier for them to organize, and that's why actually the advantage of big operations. A few years ago, we got a CEO North America of Daimler Trucker, came here to speak, and he was saying like, because of the technology, and right now actually they don't even ship the, the trucks have big engines, right? They used to ship engines by sea and then stock with some motors like for a few years. And now they don't do that anymore. They ship the truck engines from Europe, from Germany by air, and actually save a lot of money because they save inventory costs. And yes, shipping might be a little bit more expensive, but again, you know, because of the electronic coordination and all those technology, and workers can access the same company's information worldwide with real-time information, with data analytics. They can make much more efficient decisions. All right. Anyway, so I have one example here. This is Philips Holland. Look at the structure here. And actually, I've been in the headquarters in Philips. I think it was like 1997, 98. It's really big. I think it's like from here, Newburgh to McMinnville. Yeah. So anyway, so that's the Philips structure. And, you know, you go to IBM. You know, they have like 300,000 people work for them. So you will see big structure too. Anyway. Okay. So again, there's some good explanation here. Talk about how do you maintain control in this, you know, very complex multinational corporation structure. Always remember, you know, there is an advantage, disadvantage for each structure. It's no perfect structure, and companies learn by trial and error. Okay. But again, also they have a lot of non-traditional structure come because, you know, like merger and acquisition happens, joint ventures. Go back to Lenovo again. Lenovo is from China. They bought IBM ThinkPad 204, and my doctoral dissertation actually is on Lenovo and IBM. So basically, Lenovo learned, you know, from their experience. You know, they learned how to give different structure to US, you know, and then China again, because the Chinese are from a collective culture, Americans from individualistic culture. So anyway, so basically cultural differences also determine your company structure too. And actually there's a lot of research on that, okay? In the collective culture, the relationship is emphasized, you know, the informal communication. In an individualistic culture, it's more task-oriented. You know, we talked about that before, organization culture. You know, even for the same American company, you know, they have different approaches in Europe, in Germany, remember? And Trumpiness have a research talk about the shale oil, right? Remember the hair, H-A-R-I-R, right? The helicopter, analysis, imagination, realistic, right? And the leading, right? So anyway, so you see that cultures determine structure too. All right, so anyway. But again, also a lot of things right now, I just mentioned electronics, anyway, freelancers, you know, they can, what's the companies, you know, temporary basis. Just pay them, they do a module for you, programming for you, and a lot of temporary tasks, you know, and again, you know, so that can make those virtual teams into your structure, and structure exists for a while, and you can even call that a virtual structure. Okay, all right. So anyway, again, for the multinational companies, right? So you go through this process, you know, formalization. You have to make sure there's a formal procedures to communicate and making decisions, but also emphasize on the horizontal specialization and vertical specialization. You know, talk about vertical specialization. You know, I want to kind of emphasize. You know, actually, L.E.A.D was really kind of proud of their what to do. You know, they buy a lot of actually like raw materials or intermediate materials. And they make the dental equipment, furniture, and they have this vertical integration, and they make sure the quality control is there. Yeah, but also a lot of times, you know, companies utilize a horizontal one. You know, they try to say get more resources from their suppliers, so they can, save more money. All right. Again, centralization, decentralization is about decision-making process. So when the economy is bad, and normally companies go through centralization, they let people go, lay people off. But when the economy is good, and normally they kind of go through the decentralization and the snowball effect, company become bigger. So it's really like a cycle anyway. Yeah. And this chart is very interesting. It shows how the managers in American companies, or Japanese companies, in Taiwan, how they influence. And actually see American firms, they are more like work-related, and the Japanese firm actually emphasize more on the human touch. It's very interesting, right? Okay. So basically, I want to kind of summarize what we learned today. Remember, global strategy is just so important. Strategy is just a blueprint for company to reach the goal. I talk about the 4 easy entry modes: licensing, including franchising, export-import, alliance, that's joint venture, and then direct foreign investment comes 2 forms. The greenfield, start from scratch investment, or you just buy another company fully owned by you. So anyway, but I also talk about the structure, the importance of a structure, the relationship between the strategy and structure. Structure should facilitate a strategy. If you do not change the structure when the external environment changed, and then your structure could be burdensome, to inhibit company's growth. So anyway, so that's my lecture today. I want you guys to go over the chapter, really review. It's just so important to understand the importance of global strategy in international management. Okay, bye for now.